And over to you, Rabbi Khalili. Thank you. Just take my call.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As usual, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I would like to offer an apology, for I have not actually praised this beautiful initiative of sitting for breakfast and learn at my previous shiurim. And I felt it was long overdue, so I want to do that today. In fact, I actually want to link this to the idea of the 3 weeks that we are in now. And the way I want to do this is rather than we just sitting here and having a nice time and fomenting Ahavat Israel between us, I would like to have a look at how this is being viewed from the celestial court from above. I'm not a prophet, but the Torah has given us some clues from which we can form a picture, and I think it is a beautiful way of describing such a great initiative. So the Gemara says in Brachot Daf Samach Dalet Amud Aleph, Amar Rabbi Levi ben Chia. The Rabbi Levi ben Chia says, היוצא מבית הכנסת ונכנס לבית המדרש ועוסק בתורה זוכר מקבל פני שכינה. The one who goes from the בית הכנסת to the בית מדרש and he sits and he learns Torah before he starts his day, he receives pnei shechina. He receives the kind of revelation of the divine presence in this day, kind of like when HaKadosh Baruch Hu he revealed himself to Avraham Avinu. It means that person is doing something very great and very unique. Because it says, you go from strength to strength. You do one thing which is positive, then now you go on top of that, you build something even better, even greater. And is actually a halacha in Shulchan Aruch, Siman Kuf Nun Hey in Orach Chaim, that says if you do have a seder that's kavua, that's fixed, and you do that every day or every week, you should not cancel it, even if you think you're going to earn a lot of money or you're going to achieve something great. The uniqueness that you have a seder to learn Torah after your davening, it's very important, to the point that you should not start your day until you have your seder. So it's that unique. Now, this actually has halachic implications, which we shall see in a moment. The Gemara says, the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Kuf Nun Aleph something very interesting about the Beit HaKnesset and the Beit HaMidrash. Yechezkel Hanavi, he was in Babylon, and he tells us that the Jewish nation would be staying in Babylon, it would be staying in exile for 70 years until they would be allowed to return back to the land of Israel. And he tells them to build in Babylon, Batei Kinesiot, Batei Midrashot, to build their places of worship and places of learning. And he tells them, Vayehi lahem lemikdash me'at. I will be for them a small sanctuary. And the Gemara says, Elo Batei Kinesiot ubebatei Midrashot shebebavel. These are the houses of learning and the houses of worship in Bavel. But the halacha doesn't stop there. The halacha says, Kedushat Bet HaMidrash gedola mikdushat Bet HaKnesset. The sanctity of the Bet Midrash is greater than the sanctity of a shul. It means if you have a place where you daven and you learn Torah, compared to a place where you only daven but you do not learn Torah, so the place where you daven and you learn Torah, the kedusha of that place is greater and superior to the place where you learn, even though the other place is fully dedicated only to worship. So if I would draw a comparison, so the weekly base medrash where we daven and the shul where you daven a Yom Tov, here it would be having a greater kedusha than the shul over there. Why is that? Because here we sit and we learn Torah besides davening, and there we mainly learned as daven, but we don't do Torah. Now, this is compared to, for example, if you have a tanis, and you wear that tanis occasionally. It's brand new, it looks beautiful. You look very dignified if you put that on. However, if you have a tattered tanis, a tanis that belonged to your father or your grandfather, and you carry on using that very same tanis one day, another day, it looks not as dignified as the other one, but because of the mitzvot he will be doing with the tanit over and over and over again, that tanit we could say has more kedusha, has more goodness in it compared to the other one, which is newer and more beautiful because of the added effects that you have. That same thing, that's what happened to our base medrash. If you learn Torah and daven at the same time, it's something unique that adds to the place, which brings the kedusha. This is what makes this breakfast and learn so beautiful. It adds to the kedusha of the place. It enables us to consider this a bet midrash rather than a bet knesset. Now that's if we learn on our own. We can go a step further. The Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Lametes Amud Aleph says something interesting. The Caesar of Rome, the governor that was living in Israel at the time, asked Rabban Gamliel an interesting question. He says, "You guys say, Kol be'asara shchinta sharia." Every place where you have 10 Jews sitting together, the Shekhinah comes down and dwells among them. So if you have 10 Jews here, and 10 Jews in Hill Lane, and 10 Jews in Hillcrest Avenue, and 10 Jews in Glengo, says, how many Shekhinah do you have? How many gods do you have? In the answer that is like the sun. We've got one sun at every place that we sit together, the sun is shining over there. It's just one sun. But the idea is, wherever there are 10 people sitting, I'm not talking about people learning Torah. The fact that 10 Jews sit together, Shekhinah is there automatically. There's no other thing that you have to do. There are 10 Jews sitting in one place. They're discussing politics. They're discussing gourmet foods or whatever you might like. If they're not in Torah, the 10 Jews come together, the Shekhinah is there. And we have the same idea in Pirkei Avot, Asara sheyoshvim v'yoskim b'Torah, that goes a step further. 10 people that are sitting and they're learning Torah, Shekhinah shruya benehem, Shekhinah is there. What's so special about the Shekhinah sitting with us? The Shekhinah is everywhere. God is everywhere. God doesn't have a body. So what does it mean the Shekhinah is here? So to answer that question, I want to bring in a pasuk from the Haftarah of Parashat Be'amotcha. The Navi Zechariah talks about Yehoshua, the Kohen Gadol of the time, being addressed by an angel. And the angel tells the Yehoshua, the Kohen Gadol, if you keep my ways, I will give you wanderers, beings that can walk, move amongst those that standing here. The idea being an angel, as far as great and as holy as he might be, an angel cannot change itself. An angel, the way God created it, is going to stay that way forever. It cannot change. A human being, on the other hand, can always better himself, can always develop himself, herself, can always become a greater person, can always add up. So a person that's living and learning Torah is considered what we call in Torah a mehamech, a person who's walking, a person who's on a journey. A person can always bring something that makes him or her a better person. So therefore, when we're sitting 10 people together, which already brings the Shekhinah down, and on top of that, we're learning Torah, we're making the Shekhinah, which are already here, greater, the angels can't stand it. At this moment now, we're sitting here learning Torah, there are no angels. Because the angels are so afraid of God's presence that we are drawing here now, that they're constantly just waiting on the sides until we finish the shir, and then we can come back. And it is a beautiful thing. So it's not a small feat that we sit together in learn Torah, and the kviut that we have that week after week. To do that over and over again is something great. So I wanted to share that with you. I want to link this to the idea of the 3 weeks, because one of the things I have said earlier is the fact that with sitting here together, we we develop, we reinforce the idea of Ahavat Israel, of loving a fellow Jew. Now, I can't emphasize this idea enough, but I want to bring a Gemara in Gittin, Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph. The Gemara says something interesting there, which is very relevant today, and I'll bring 2 examples of that. I still have time? Yeah, good. The Gemara says there were 3 rich people in Jerusalem as the Romans were surrounding the city. One of them was Rabbi Akiva's father-in-law, Karba Savua. There were other 2 people with them. One was called Makdimon Ben Gurion, one was called Ben Tzitzita Keset. And these 3 people had so much money and they had stored so much food that they could provide for Jerusalem for 21 years. So, the Romans are out there, they cannot breach the walls. We're okay. So let's think with our heads cool. Let's keep cool. So let's think how we can solve the diplomatic situation. As usually, there are unfortunately at the time people in society that were hot-headed, and they consider now let's show them what we're made of. And the rabbis told these people, the Talmud called them biryonim. Let's have a dialogue with these people. No. But so what did these people did to force everybody to fight with the Romans? They burned the entire supply, 21 years of supply of food in Jerusalem. And immediately after that, there was a famine, and obviously the end of the story we all know. Funny enough, they actually regretted it afterwards, but it was too late.
Like Brexit.
That's one of the things. Correct. Now, I want to bring 2 examples. So the idea is not only we do something then regret it later, is this idea of some people thinking they understand Torah better than other people's, and they try to force their opinions onto everybody else. I will give an example. There has been a hot debate about the idea of an Eruv anywhere in London. Now, on a theoretical level, is the idea how can you transform what we call the Reshut Rabim, public domain, into a private domain that we can carry on Shabbat. Now, we do have very capable Dayanim that have sat on this matter, they have looked into it, and they have decided they can make an Eruv. So the Eruv is there. Whoever doesn't like the Eruv, that's their problem. Now, is it good? Very good. Now, there is one place, it came out on the news a couple of weeks ago in Stamford Hill, and I'll talk about the community, about just the place where it happened. It was one individual, and it's not the first time. He doesn't like the idea of the Eruv. Well, it's a Reshut Rabim, he doesn't approve the Eruv. So he didn't have a better idea, and in Stamford Hill, they accept Shabbat at its time, so it was about 9 something at night. At that time, when every lady is lighting candles, he goes there and he clips the Eruv. And he and another friend drive away when it's already Shabbat. So that person was Mechalel Shabbat, caused the entire community to be Mechalel Shabbat because he wanted to force his idea of an Eruv. regrettable. It's ridiculous, but people can go to these lengths. I'll give you another example. We all know that there is an anti-Israel mayor now in New York, right? I don't have to give the name. Now that he was elected because there were a lot of people within the Jewish community of New York that they wanted to show, they do not like Zionism, so they're going to vote against. Okay, so this person was being elected. However, after he's shown his face and has so much anti-Semitism coming out of his mouth, 700 of these rabbis wrote him a letter and tell him, slow down, don't do that. Now he's already in power. Do you think he's going to listen to them? So these people are now they're doing anchet when they should have done that a long time ago. And this brings me to the idea of what we call ahavat chinam. Now, there is no such a concept in Jewish literature what we call the ahavat chinam. There is a concept we call sinat chinam, but there's not such a concept. It's been a concept that's been invented called ahavat chinam. But what is the idea of ahavat chinam? To make it very short, when we understand at the end of the day, we are all Jews, despite our differences and colors of kippah and lengths of beard and colors of the clothes we wear. We're all Jews and we have that in common and we cannot change that. And everything else comes secondary to that. When we achieve this understanding and we apply it in practice, that becomes a ahavat chinam. That becomes a basis upon which you can build anything that's positive. We have differences, yes, of course. In every society, we have people that have differences, but we cannot forget the fact that we are members of the same nation. We are brothers and sisters by blood. We are all Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and that comes before anything else. The moment we forget that, it's the moment we fail. And to finish, there is a story in Masechet Sotah, Daf Kaf Bet Amud Bet. Yanai HaMelech, one of the kings of the Hasmonean family, the second temple, told to his wife the following: do not be afraid of those people that live an ascetic life. Some people think it's the way they like to live. Don't underestimate those who do not live an ascetic life. They live a modern life. That's fine as well. However, do be afraid of those hypocrites that they behave like ascetics, they behave like the people that are very holy. They behave like that person who brought a Midianite woman in front of Moshe and sinned with her in front of the entire community. However, they ask God to reward them like they did something great like Pinchas. And it's very unique. It's very relevant for the 3 weeks. For we are here because people were hot-headed and they did things that they themselves regret later, but we're still paying the price today. And in order to remedy that, things like sitting here and learning together and fomenting Ahavat Israel is one of the remedies that will help us greet Mashiach and restore the Jewish nation to the way and honor it was before that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that. I will say goodbye to those on Zoom and we'll see you all next week.